Hey, Eagle fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome to Philadelphia Eagles Now. Happy Tuesday. Plenty going on. Let's jump into the latest Philadelphia Eagles news and rumors. We're going to focus on OTAs, explain what they are, explain when they begin, and explain the big battles I want to go ahead and keep an eye on as the offseason training programs continue to really jump into high gear towards the end of May. First, 5 reasons quickly why you should be a subscriber here to the channel. Well, you might already be, which if you are, I appreciate it. Almost 30,000 of you guys. But if you're not, you're going to get daily Eagles coverage, which is like way better than other channels and obviously way better than ESPN, which never talks about the Philadelphia Eagles during the offseason. Daily coverage, 100% Eagles. Also 100% free. Any breaking news, any rumors, we'll break them all down here on the channel. Get interactive content, and you help us get to that mythical 30,000K number as we are 429 subs away. Help us grow, help us out. Go down below and subscribe right now. As I mentioned, we're going to jump into some details on the offseason training activities, OTAs for short. You'll hear that acronym come out a lot over the next couple of days and weeks. And essentially, different NFL teams are beginning their offseason training programs officially either this week or next week. Philadelphia, of course, starting up next week. But essentially, these begin May 31st. You'll have a couple of different subset of days, like 3 days here, 3 days there, over the course of the next month, as NFL teams are allowed 10 total practices over the course of the month. A couple of things that are not allowed. Obviously, hitting is not allowed. Wearing pads is not allowed. It's more of a conditioning stuff. And then they'll still work on some 11-on-11s, some 9-on-9s, and some 7-on-7s, or I guess 9-on-7s and then 7-on-7s. So they'll still do some install and some work on some important stuff. And you'll see some battles out there, but it's not training camp. They're not going to put pads on. They're not going to hit. It's obviously an off-season training activity. But with that being said, this is truly your first look of all the Eagles together. Most of the Eagles will be there for OTAs. I'm not aware of anyone who's going to hold out of OTAs or skip OTAs. And so you're going to get to see the big battles that we're expecting for training camp. And there are a ton of position battles up for grabs over the next couple of months at very key positions. Hence why today's video is going to give you guys my top 5 position battles to keep an eye on, not only at OTAs, but as the offseason continues to grow. All this influx of talent, we talked about Philadelphia's awesome offseason, does result in a little bit of a disappointment for some current Eagles on the roster, because not only might you lose your position, but now you got to work even harder to win that position, which in the end, iron sharpens iron, should be good for Philadelphia, but it's going to be an interesting, I would say, next couple of months for a lot of the players and a lot of the position groups we're going to talk about here on today's video. We'll start with number 5 in just 1 second. First, answer the pinned comment down below during the ad break. Which position group are you most excited to watch? Not just at OTAs, but overall. You got wide receiver, you have the offensive line, you have the defensive line, you have linebacker, safety, corner. Every place is going to be fun to watch. What position group are you most excited to see? Let me know down below right now. All right, we'll start with least to first, right? Obviously, all are going to be inside the top 5. We'll start with number 5, though, and then number 1 will be my biggest position battle. 5 is tight end. Now, obviously, Dallas Goedert has no competition. He will be your number 1 tight end on this roster and could be, due for a breakout year. I mentioned in a mailbag video over the weekend, I think he's going to have a monster year. Just the additions with, A.J. Brown on one side, year 2 Devontae Smith, the other wide receivers in the mix. I think he's going to have a huge year. Who's the other tight end alongside him? Who's the other guy in 12 personnel? It's always been Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, at least has been for the past couple of years, at least Goddard's entire career. And now you have kind of this, I would say, 4-player battle for tight end number 2. And you see the depth chart on your screen right now. You got Richard Rodgers, who they've obviously kind of always kept as a practice squad guy and then kind of a backup and then a replacement during injuries. The savvy veteran of the group. He's got the most receiving yards out of any of them. And you have J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Talk more about him in a second, but the disgruntled, or I should say, a disappointing wide receiver converting to tight end, maybe a better position for him overall. Who knows? You have Tyree Jackson, the former quarterback, who now plays tight end. Dealt with too many injuries last year, but a lot of promise. You have Jack Stoll, more of a blocking tight end, and then Calcaterra, the rookie that they drafted in the later parts of the NFL draft, who maybe, just maybe, could be in position and battle for that number 2 spot. We focused in, though, on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. He's the wild card here, because if everything goes correctly, he's kind of the best pass catcher of the entire group. He is a wide receiver. Now, he hasn't been very good catching the passes as a wide receiver, but maybe going over to tight end, a lot of production blocking as a wide receiver, can kind of transition to being a tight end on the line there, and maybe his route running can be a little bit better than some of the bigger guys like a Tyree Jackson or a Calcaterra. So I think that this is going to be a battle to watch. Not the most important one, because obviously they're all looking up at Dallas Goedert, who's going to be your number 1 tight end, but I do think that this is something that they are going to really try and figure out during OTAs and during training camp. And they have no idea. I would argue the coaching staff has no idea who will be the number 2 tight end, and obviously that's what battles are for. It's what camp is for, and we will find that out sooner rather than later. All right, number 4 on this list, defensive tackle. Now, Well, we know that there will be 2 starters, and obviously the two starters, most notably Fletcher Cox, have always been or will always be there, and that'll be in your starting 4. But the question is behind them, Milton Williams and Jordan Davis, and it's not necessarily who's better, but it's more of how ready is Jordan Davis, because I think most of us would agree that Jordan Davis is going to go ahead and be a much better in the long run defensive tackle. Nothing against Milton Williams, and I like Milton Williams. I loved him in year 1. We'll see what he does in year 2, but Davis has that it factor and the size and the strength. Reason why he was a first-round draft pick and Williams was taken not in the first round, let's just say that. But is Jordan Davis ready to go, right? Is he going to take a little bit of time to get up to the NFL speed and, learn how to play against NFL offensive linemen, or is he going to waltz in there and just dominate day 1? That's a big storyline that will come out of OTAs. Again, the pads aren't on, so you can't fully tell, but I think we're going to get a really good indicator on just how ready Jordan Davis is as a player, and that's going to impact the entire defensive line. I mean, I just said Fletcher Cox is your starter, but if Davis is balling out of his mind, he'll eventually take that spot over. Cox is in the final year of his contract. They're not trying to re-sign him after this. It's kind of this, farewell tour, his Finney flight, if you will. I do think that Davis is going to be impressive. It's just how quickly can he be impressive? Definitely a position battle we are watching here on the channel. Now, who are you more excited to watch? Jordan Davis and Kobe Dean, the 2 Georgia players now on the Eagle defense, both locked in position battles. Talk about Dean here in a second. Type JD down below for Jordan Davis or ND down below for Kobe Dean. All right, let's move on here to number 3, the wide receiver position. As we go to the wide receiver depth chart, a lot of battles going on here. Top of the depth chart, there is no battle. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they're 1A, 1B. They're 1 and 1, essentially, right? You can make the case that Brown is your 1 and Smith's your 2, but really, it's 1A, 1B. It's not going to matter. Both are your starters. Both are going to be very, very impressive. But then you move on to the 3rd wide receiver, right? Who's 3rd and 4th? Those are the next 2 battles, because you really have, I would argue, a 5-horse race for these 2 positions. And right, you obviously think, well, it should be Quez Watkins or Zach Pascal, but there's no guarantee that either 2 of those are going to be 3 and 4. You still have Jalen Reagor, who is a first-round draft pick, albeit a very disappointing first-round draft pick, but what if he balls out? Then he can win that job. It's very, very possible. I mean, he's shown some potential in the past, had a really good training camp last year, and then didn't transition onto the football field. So Reagor is out there. You forget about John Hightower. Still waiting for him to kind of come into his own. Greg Ward, the savvy veteran, they made a purpose to re-sign this offseason to a 1-year deal despite the lack of targets and receptions last year. This is a very important battle, and it's not one that I think will be resolved early. I think this will go into the season, right? I mean, whoever the most productive player is that week will be the wide receiver 3, and the next most productive will be wide receiver 4. But as of right now, this is a 5-way battle, a 5-horse race to see who gets to be the 3rd and 4th wide receiver. I'm excited to see who comes out on top. All right, our 2 most important position groups getting into number 2 here is linebacker. Linebacker, in terms of battle, this is going to be fun. This is going to be really fun. Mainly because when was the last time we had real linebacker battles that actually mattered, right? Now, you've had some in the past, and it's like, ooh, who's going to start over this player? But in the end, this depth chart is the best depth chart we've seen in Philadelphia in a very, very long time. You have battles at inside linebacker between Kobe Dean and obviously TJ Edwards. You have battles at outside linebacker with Kazir White, who signed a 1-year deal this offseason, and Davion Taylor, the forgotten prodigal son, who I think is going to be really, really good. He comes into the league, he's undersized. Is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? Nothing in year 1. You roll over year 2 last year, doesn't play much, and then finally gets into the lineup kind of the middle of the season, plays great, has the ankle injury, and missed the rest of the year. I think he's ready to rock. I think that he's going to give Kazir White a run for his money, and they'll rotate these guys in there, and we won't know who's going to start till week 1, but look out for Davion Taylor. I think this is kind of the boom or bust year, and I'm leaning a lot more towards boom in year 3 for the young outside linebacker. Now, who do you think wins it at outside linebacker? Is it Kazir White, or is it Davion Taylor? Type KW for Kazir White, or DT down below for Davion Taylor. Let me know down below right now. All right, let's get into our number 1 position battle regarding Philadelphia Eagle OTAs. Again, OTAs start on the 31st of May. That is basically a week from today, a little less than a week from today. But Philadelphia is going to be not only all out there, most of the guys we talked about, but they're going to be battling out at key position groups. And I think the biggest battle that we're going to watch is a 2-horse race. I mean, and it's the safety position. It's Marcus Epps versus Kayvon Wallace. Who wins this battle? Because as the offseason has gone, we've watched Philadelphia plug every hole. Right, we watched them secure the quarterback spot, and basically by saying that Jalen Hurts is our guy, hole plugged, right? Consistency there. They went ahead and added depth to the offensive line. They kept all of their running backs. They added a wide receiver, that's a hole plug. They added defensive linemen, massive hole plug. They added linebackers, there's a hole plug. They added cornerbacks, that's a hole plug. The only place they didn't add anything is safety. They re-signed Anthony Harris, but after that they said, we tried for some of these free agent safeties that we talked about in the past. Couldn't get any of them. Whether they really tried or not, who knows. But now it's down to Marcus Epps and Kayvon Wallace. And you have Epps, who waltzes in as you would think the favorite, right? Kind of the incumbent, the guy who would fill in whenever you had an injury at safety. Great special teamer. He hits really hard. He's been a little bit of a ball hawk. I mean, he's not bad intercepting passes. But then you also have the young buck, right? And you have the guy that a lot of people were excited and comparing to Brian Dawkins, mainly because they both played at Clemson, not because he was really, in the mold of Brian Dawkins, but Wallace plays at Clemson. He was, a middle, a draft pick a couple of years ago, and is kind of the guy you were hoping to take over at the safety spot. Injured early on, he kind of got in a couple of times, but not a lot shown there in terms of overall production, and so these two are going to be basically set on equal footing. Like, you might see Epps kind of be the starter once OTA start, or once camp starts. Like, he might run with the ones. But in the end, this is very much a starting neck and neck. Whoever comes up first is going to be the starting safety, and that, again, is going to be the one hole. It's the one part of this defense you really are going to want to attack as you get into Week 1 against Detroit and, the future games during the NFL season. And you can figure out ways to create one-on-one opportunities against, slot receivers against this safety, or against tight ends against this safety, and so the winner is going to have a lot of pressure placed on them, and so this becomes my number one camp battle, because you really need to see somebody not only win this battle, but kind of show that they're ready to go. And not win because they were the better of the two bad players, but win because they were the best guy on the football field at the position and really seem comfortable playing what is still an important position in the National Football League. I've said in the past that safety is not necessarily as big of a deal as it once was. Like, it's nice to have a great safety, but it's not a requirement on a championship level team. But I do think it is still a requirement for Philadelphia to have a top 5 defense, which we're hoping they do after the additions that they made this offseason at linebacker and D-tackle, and obviously the Bradbury signing at cornerback. We'll finish on this. How excited are you for OTAs to start? Like, scale 1 to 100. How pumped are you? Again, is it a massive deal? Like, it's not training camp. It's not like, oh my gosh, like, training camp is here. That means you're going to have joint practices and preseason games and the season just a month away. It's not that, but it's something, and I think Philadelphia's going to have a great turnout and some great competition and some great battles. I'm at like an 80 on a scale of 1 to 100. Not going to go nuts. I'm not going to be like, on Twitter every day trying to get all these, different news and rumors. I mean, I will. It's my job. I'm not going to be glued to it like I am for training camp, but I'm still excited to see what we hear, and we'll give you guys plenty of updates out of Eagle OTAs when they start on the 31st of May. All right, ultimate day on our Philadelphia Eagles news rumor video, taking a look at OTAs, key dates, and key position battles. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, be part of our mailbag video later on this week. Hashtag Eagles in the comment section to find a mailbag question. For Philadelphia Eagles Now, I'm producer Trace. I'm Thomas Mott, signing off for the rest of your day.